Other notable learning centers for teens. While I emphasize the Liberated Learners, Agile Learning Centers, and democratic free schools, I want to point out that there are many other self-directed learning centers that exist in the world. An entire book could be written specifically about this subject. The reason I focused on the ALCs, Liberated Learners, and democratic free schools is that they are the most common models of self-directed learning centers, so you're most likely to be able to find one of them in your area. I'd like to touch on a few other notable opportunities worth mentioning that are either standalone learning centers that haven't been replicated or are places where self-directed learning is possible but isn't necessarily an inherent part of the center. For example, homeschooling co-ops can create lots of opportunities for young self-directed learners, though they are not necessarily all focused on self-directed learning. In a co-op setting, parents all contribute to the benefit of the collective. Some parents may volunteer to teach a class each week in a subject they are familiar with. Some parents may donate materials and supplies. Others might offer physical space the co-op can use to hold classes or group meetings. The idea is that if everyone contributes what they can, the group can benefit as a whole. I first heard about homeschooling co-ops when I was a guest on the web show For the Love of Learning, episode number 118, reference 167. One of the other guests, Candy Tucker, described a co-op she and her son Jesse created in Central Florida called the Free Schoolers Organization, where both teens and adults taught classes. They also started a group called Tabletop Teens for unschooling teens to play board games, as well as Aquanauts, an all-ages group focusing on hands-on work for scientists. As the number of groups they were starting grew, they consolidated them all into a larger organization called the Majestically Awkward Fun Schoolers, which has over 350 members. In Candy's words, "For a long time, we did a lot of things on our own, but it's a lot nicer when you have community support behind you. We decided together to create a lot of different groups and clubs, and it's really blossomed in this area. It was something here in Central Florida that we needed because we have a lot of homeschooling groups, but not any unschooling groups. So we just go around and try and plan as many things as we can, focusing on things my son enjoys, and his friends come in and we plan things they enjoy, and we encourage other parents and members of our community to step in and do the same, and we've grown really fast." Reference 168. If you want to find out if there is a homeschooling co-op in your area, I don't have a master directory for you to search through. Your best bet is to Google search homeschooling co-op in your city. Another model is that of a co-learning community, such as Workspace Education in Bethel, Connecticut, which is catching attention on a national level. What makes Workspace really unique is that they have blended a co-working space for adults with a self-directed learning space for youth, all under one roof. There's a specific space where the adults work remotely all day, and another space allowing young people to explore their interests and ideas. At present, there are about 100 families with 150 children who are members at Workspace. Naturally, this approach only works in an area where there are lots of parents working remotely, but it is a truly innovative approach to what the future of working and learning and living can look like. Students are required to have their parent on the property while they are in the building, though exceptions are made for teens 16 and up. Many parents offer to teach courses and workshops, some for free, some require an additional fee. Workspace is well-funded and built out a facility that most of these other locations can only dream of, spending millions of dollars purchasing and renovating their large space, which features multiple classrooms and study spaces, an entrepreneur space, a wood shop, an animation lab, a history and humanities space, a performing arts space, an art space, a maker space, an audio recording studio, a creative movement studio, an industrial kitchen, and a science lab. Students have access to resources like sewing machines, 3D printers, laser cutters, virtual reality headsets, lab equipment, microphones, video cameras, and a DJ booth. In addition, Workspace has relationships with local businesses who regularly donate things like materials to make costumes or robotic arms. Given how much is happening within the Workspace building at any time, a Google Calendar is used to allow people to easily find when and where activities they are interested in are taking place. To build community amongst its members, Workspace runs events like open mic nights, karaoke night, and a twice-a-year marketplace where youth can sell items. Workspace operates with only 3 full-time staff members who manage the operations and facilities, plus a recently hired teacher to run the science lab. According to the founder of Workspace, Kath Frage, approximately 10% of the members at Workspace have a high buy-in and get incredibly involved in running classes and workshops. Workspace also invites retired professionals and community members to volunteer to teach classes. During one of my visits to Workspace, there was an archaeologist visiting who created an archaeological dig on the side of the building where he'd buried real artifacts donated from a museum. An online version of a self-directed learning center recently launched called Sora School. Sora describes itself as an online, project-based high school where students explore their interests, learn how they want, and gain valuable exposure to future careers. Reference 169. Sora connects teens virtually to work on projects together and also provides mentorship from their network of CEOs, entrepreneurs, journalists, engineers, computer scientists, designers, artists, and scientists. Mentioning online self-directed learning opportunities wouldn't make sense without including Khan Academy, a completely free learning resource. Khan Academy has a massive database of video lessons matching every subject in the middle and high school curriculum. They also have tests and quizzes you can take, and they track and monitor your progress. Spending 100% of your time on Khan Academy would not really be a self-directed learning experience, but it is an invaluable resource for content and structure if you are looking for that on specific subjects, especially math. Along the lines of free resources, I want to mention what are called homeschooling charter schools, which I learned about when I lived in San Diego, California. These charter schools do not actually have a physical location that the students attend each day. Instead, the students enrolled in the homeschooling charter school receive monthly credits, which they can use to pay for classes like art, karate, music, or math tutoring from businesses in their community. These homeschool charter programs also offer government-funded resources like education specialists who help students design personalized learning plans and find resources. Reference 170. This unique model allows for government funding to be able to support their self-directed education. From what I've seen, these exist throughout California, reference 171, but it is possible they exist in more locations. You should research to see if similar opportunities exist in your local community. Having government funding to support self-directed education is very difficult to pull off, because government funding typically comes with strings attached to it. Governments typically want accountability in the form of evaluations attached to their funding, which is difficult to formalize in a self-directed setting where learning is personalized. Personalized learning is not compatible with standardized testing. That being said, there are some instances where this appears to have occurred, such as Meraki High School in Fair Oaks, California. Meraki, which was originally called Unschool, was started by Gabe Cooper, who shared his journey in an episode of Blake Bowles' Off-Trail Learning podcast. Gabe says, "For 18 months, I spent interviewing kids, checking out schools, and asking kids, what do you like about school? What do you like about learning? Then I'd say, school is this organized system that tells you how to behave and operate and learn in some linear fashion. Now talk to me about your learning. If you have a free Saturday, what do you want to do with that time? What's your learning then?" And kids would tell me what their learning looks like. So I thought, why can't I create that environment at something called a school? Why can't that be school? And they all told me they don't really like classes. They like what I came to define as chill time, with an adult that could mentor them. It's nothing profound to me. It's just, can I hang with an adult who knows something or is willing to try something with me? I have kids trying to weld, to make a movie, whatever it is. Let's try it and educate ourselves about it. And now we have about 80 students. They've come in, and our principle was that they would design the entire program. Reference 172. One example of a partially publicly funded self-directed learning center is Lighthouse in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Lighthouse started off as a true self-directed learning center that was a Liberated Learners Center. After Holyoke's public schools were taken over by the state due to high dropout rates, the city offered to pay full tuition to send teens at risk of dropping out to Lighthouse. Part of this arrangement required Lighthouse to start taking attendance records and providing written descriptions of all the classes the teens were taking. Naturally, this began to deviate from the self-directed nature of Liberated Learners Centers, and Lighthouse ultimately left the Liberated Learners Network. At present, Lighthouse is not entirely funded publicly, but operates as a hybrid of a public and private learning center. When I first started writing this book, I thought I'd be reporting about the launch of the Powder House Studio in Somerville, Massachusetts. Powder House was an ambitious project to create a publicly funded, self-directed learning center that would serve 160 teens and was in the works for about 7 years. Powder House even won a competition that awarded Powder House a $10 million grant from the XQ Institute to build the facilities. Though the project was approved by the Somerville Teachers Association, it was rejected in March of 2019 by the Somerville School Committee, who felt that it would detract from the resources being committed to the rest of the community. Reference 173. As you can see, finding sources of funding to support self-directed learning centers continues to be a challenge. This is one of the main reasons why we don't have learning centers in every town and city. We're going to look at this problem in the next chapter.